have a very special episode today on From the Basement Up. I have Nicole Love from Soul Gratitude speaking with me about better self-love and sharing how she created a life as an energy healer. Though Nicole does have several degrees, one of those being nursing, she found that traditional medicine, actually Western medicine, left her feeling disconnected and unhappy. While attending universities and working in jobs for more traditional careers, Nicole was also taking meditation and alternative healing classes. After years of soul searching and tapping into the source energy or the place of love, Nicole took the step to become a full-time energy healer and reader. She works with individuals every day to help them hold space of love, something that brings wholeness to them and to the people in their lives. So, Nicole, welcome to From the Basement Up.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Yay. Now, did I give that intro? Did I do okay in that intro? Did I miss anything in that intro that we need to let people know of right away?
I think you did great. The only thing is it's deeper self-love.
Okay, good. So deeper self-love. Thank you. And one thing the feedback I've been getting from people is they want to know more about the people that I'm speaking to, like, almost like, I guess, a biography in a way, like what made you go, not just about the career and starting it and being an entrepreneur, but who you are, like what makes you tick. Mm-hmm. And so this is cool because I get to do it on this episode and really I know you very, very well. So Nicole was like my first roommate in life. And you moved into my room when I was 8 years old and you were 3. So you are my sister. And we shared a room until I was 16. And so Nicole has been with me through my life. And I am excited to have her speak with everybody today because she's been brave and done a different type of career that, it was some soul searching and she just made it happen. And she's great too. But I just want to introduce her to you. And Nicole, tell us a little bit about you.
Okay. Well, first, thank you so much. I love you and so grateful for you.
Yay. Thank you. I love you too.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to start way back and talk about when I was really small and could see energy and then saw an angel, because that's what gave me the foundation and the follow through for just knowing that there's something else out there in life and that something else is what nourishes me. So when I was little, though, it wasn't anything that felt nourishing because it was kind of strange. It looked like cartoons around, like little blobs going back and forth in the entryway of the bedroom, or a blob, and they were colorful and they almost looked, I don't know really how to describe it, digitized in a way. But just like, what is that doing there? I have no idea why it's there, because it would happen, around falling asleep or, at nighttime. And during the day, we've talked about this, our house felt strange, but.
Oh yeah. Our house was haunted. I can say that. And it was just you and I, like no one else heard the stuff. That's what was so terrifying.
And drawers closing and
yes.
things. Yeah.
No one believed us.
And running past the dining room, because that is the scariest room. But anyway, okay. So one night I walked into mom and dad's room and there was an angel sitting on the foot of the bed. It's actually on dad's feet. And she looked honestly just like me, a little girl. And I have a twin brother, and I was thinking, oh, maybe she's my twin, I was bored. I was just trying to figure it out. And because I wasn't scared, I was just thinking, this is strange. She's just staring at me. We're not talking. I can't telepathically hear anything. I just know that I'm safe, but this feels weird. No one would wake up. My dad didn't wake up, but my mom usually wakes up the second I walk in the room. But I was shaking her, calling her, and she wouldn't wake up. And then I go in our sister's room, Loren's room. She wouldn't wake up, but I just crawl in bed with her. So the next morning I wake up and I remember everything, but I'm thinking, that's so strange. I don't think I'm going to tell anyone because I don't think anyone would believe me. And I go around, but this moment is so strong in me that I probably a week or more later tell mom. And then she's like, why didn't you tell me earlier? And I just shared with her that I felt strange and I didn't know what to think or feel about it. And she said that same thing had happened to her when she was around my age, but it was a man and woman at the end of her own bed. And then that your sister, Shelly, had seen an angel too.
So I'm Shelly, Michelle. But yes, and this is not something I tell many people, but hey, let's just tell everybody. So my experience was a little bit different. I had a couple of brief encounters probably around the same age. Maybe I was a little bit older, but 5 or 6. And my first one was rolling. I remember I love the color yellow, and I had this really great yellow room, and the sun would bounce off the pool, and it was just bright and happy. And kind of rolled over one day, and I could feel this softness on my hand. And I, looked over and I didn't see anything. And then I looked up, and this little shimmer, it was like a little gown, just kind of flew through the ceiling. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. It didn't freak me out, but then, like, I don't know if it was the next night or soon after, I woke up in the middle of the night, and there was a circle of these figures floating above me. And I think you were with me in the room at that time. So there was a circle of figures floating above me, and it was like heads and gowns, and I could make out arms. I don't know if I could make out hands or feet or face features. It was almost like a glow, just, I don't want to say white, it was just a glow. And then they went over me. They were there for a while, and then they went into the room next to me. And I was a scaredy cat. I was always scared. I was not scared at all. It was a very comforting feeling. I was happy. I was happy they were there. And I would get sad because I never saw them again. And I always wondered, like, why don't they come back? Come back. And they never came back. But it was interesting because I started questioning myself. Did I really see those? Did that really happen? And when you're talking about your experience and speaking to mom, I didn't believe you. I didn't. And I remember going, no, you didn't. No way. And mom was like, Shelly, how can you say that? And, think about it, think about your own experience. And I had to think about it. And even then I was like, well, I don't know. So it's just fascinating how we doubt ourselves. Even though we've seen it, we still doubt. And I love that you never doubted yourself. You embraced it.
Fully. Yeah, it was powerful for me. Yeah, and just that validation that we got from mom was so important. If she would have told me that's not true, or that you were definitely just dreaming, all of that, then maybe it would have turned it way off. I don't know. So I'm really grateful to mom for believing.
Absolutely. I agree. Absolutely agree with that. So as far as seeing this through childhood, did you talk about it with many people?
Not a lot of people, and definitely not as like in elementary school. It was more in high school. And one friend in particular was taking psychology, and she told me, I talked to my psychology teacher and he said that that's not true, that doesn't happen, and I'm like, what? I was so mad. I'm like, you don't believe me? And so I decided, and one other time, and people, I think, thought I was really strange. And so I kind of shut down talking about that side for a while.
Yes. And it's hard. And that's why I find it so interesting, fascinating, and you're so brave to make a career out of it. And that's what I'm so excited to talk to you about that today. So, but keep going. I want you to.
So ended up like bursting through was that I went into depression. You know, I was at Davis studying human development with a focus on child development, doing all the things I'm supposed to do, but life felt empty. And I just did not understand what I was even doing. What did my existence even matter? I just didn't get it. And so I was taking a Native American art class, and the professor was talking about how his mom and sister could see energy and they would make artwork from that energy. And that's where the Native American people their art would come from. And this just sparked my childhood experiences and that sense of, yes, this is the magic that I'm looking for, basically. So I went up to him after class and I told him about my experience. And then he told me about a school called the Berkeley Psychic Institute. And they had satellite schools. So there was one right next to me. I was like a half hour away. So I started going, honestly, within the next couple of weeks. And I went to that school for over 2 years, learning meditation, healing, and then training my clairvoyance how to see energy and do readings.
So this is something I want everybody to know. My family is, we're more traditional. You go to college, you get a job. We were always going, okay, I remember I think you were working in Santa Cruz. You were living in your van, right? For a while?
Bus.
Okay. She was living in a Volkswagen bus, which is so
This was
awesome.
after I graduated. Yeah. I'm like, once I graduate, I'm going to get a bus and I'm going to move to Santa Cruz and I'll take classes from there.
Which is so cool because when else are you going to do that in your life? You've got to do it in your early 20s. So I just always remember going, gosh, good for her. But what is she going to do? And that's one of those things. So, and I'm sorry, keep going. I just had to add that in.
Yeah. So honestly, that living in my van, it was hard. It was a time of going deep into myself. And there's a term called unprogramming, and it's basically pulling out all of the structures that you were brought up with, all the shoulds, basically, that society and family and community, whatever, put into you. And when you're pulling them out, you're getting a lot of backlash from the structures that were put in there, the people or the societal pressures, basically.
Sure.
And so, yeah, so that was a tough time, but like a massive growth period.
So I did something similar to that when I went back to art school. And that was, just totally changing my life path and just redoing it. And it changed the way I thought. It changed the way I reacted. Actually, I think it definitely put me on my path. I would not be the same person had I not done that for those 3 years, which is super strange. People are going to grad school, they're having families, they're having kids. And I was like, nope, I'm going to art school. I've got to do this. So I love how you have given that a name. So
programming part.
Oh, I love it. It's great. It's because it makes you just approach things so differently. And you wouldn't have had the freedom to pursue what you're doing had you not done that.
It's true. Yeah. So the next point is when I start traveling, which is another form of deprogramming, and that's learning stuff, actually.
When you were traveling, you were traveling all over the world. You were going to see shamans and different healers.
Well, yeah. First, I worked on a cruise ship. And so I got to meet a lot of people from all around the world. And I met a friend that lived in New Zealand. And so I went to go visit her. And that's where I first learned Reiki. I was attuned there. And so that was another level of learning healing. And then I came back to the States. I stayed there for about a month and worked and saved up some money and then went to Brazil. And I stayed there for a month with a shamanic community. And that was a whole other level of deprogramming for sure.
Okay. I want to hear, you have to share this. You have to share this level of deprogramming in Brazil.
Oh my gosh. Okay. The community is called the Santo Daime, and Daime means give me, a Santo is saint. And it's a combination of like the shamans, the ancient shamans of the forest combined with Christianity. And so the ayahuasca medicine that the shamans would make became the sacrament that Jesus is the form of ayahuasca, basically. And so when you go up and receive from the shaman, you say, daime, so give me, and you ask for something. So when you take in the sacrament, you're asking basically Jesus as the sacrament to give you something. And it's healing is what it is, and showing you your love also, and a whole bunch of other sources of love to hold on to. But it was beautiful because it was extremely sacred. The container was so tight, and that's what made it safe to do, because when you take these or work with these medicines, it expands you in a really big way and makes you vulnerable to energies. And so some people who do work with these medicines, maybe in not a safe container, they can get entities attached to them and things like that. So these are not recreational experiences.
Yes. Okay. So don't try this at home.
Don't try this at home, definitely, unless you're with a trained shaman. The Santo Daime, they've got the Star of David at the center, with the jagubi vine, which is the masculine part of the plant, and then the hyena bush, which is the feminine part of the plant, at the center. And it's the altar where the padrino and the madrina sit, and then a masculine and feminine musician sit to lead everybody. And when you walk in, the men walk in on the right, the women walk in on the left. And it's split up with men on one side and women on the other side. And the Star of David represents the communion of the masculine and feminine. And for me, I've always felt that communion of the masculine and feminine. I knew I had like that energy of the divine masculine in me and the energy of the divine feminine in me. Because I have a twin brother, I could really feel that. And so that was a beautiful teaching for me. But part of me wanted to be like, well, I could go sit with the men, like
I get their vibe.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so integrating the masculine and feminine has been a big lesson and teaching for me the past like 20 years for sure.
So you're so lucky that you have that part of you. I don't think I really understood men until I had a son. And
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I think about, I didn't realize how sensitive and loving, and I did not get it until I had a little boy. And I'm so thankful I have a boy. So he can show me all of that and has taught me so much. So you're lucky that you had that from our brother. So I didn't get that part from him. So good that you did. So Nick, as far as Nicole, as far as moving through, I know that you ended up going back to nursing school. And what made you kind of move into nursing school from these exotic adventures that you were doing?
Yeah. So before I hopped on the cruise ship, I stayed with our sister Lorraine, who was about to give birth to Emily,
Okay.
who is your co-host often.
Yes, everyone knows Emily. Actually, hold on. You'll hear her soon.
I love that.
So I happened to be there for her birth, and it was such a beautiful experience. And I could feel her divinity coming in. I could see her light coming in. And to me, I was feeling later, after all these experiences, that I really want to be in a career where I'm connected to spirit. And birthing, right there, you're connected to spirit. So thank you, Emily, for showing me that. And thank you, Lorraine, for showing me that. So I ended up deciding I wanted to be a nurse midwife because I figured it would be easier having a family with a schedule and that type of thing rather than a lay midwife. I did study with lay midwives though, because I really like their philosophy, and I like the more natural ways of being with the body. And then part of me had this big ego about bringing in spirit to the hospital.
How did that go?
That crushed me. That yeah. So I'm not able to hold that in the hospital. I basically have to shut that down and become more like a robot, because it's such a fast pace and high stress that I'm not able to integrate it. And I'm really, really sensitive. And so part of me takes on too much, and then my brain shuts down. That's why I have to become a robot. And so for me, I just want to give so much gratitude to all of the nurses that are able to do that, to hold that space, to have their intelligence and their heart flowing at the same time. Thank you so much, because that's a true gift.
Absolutely. So I've experienced those nurses and had them. So it changes your whole experience, and you heal faster when you
Yes.
have these loving people around you. And okay, so you had this experience, you went on a cruise, and then a long cruise, and then you came back and went back to nursing school.
Oh, that's so funny. Yes. And I also got married
Okay.
during nursing school. And then and at the end of nursing school, I had my first child. So actually, I graduated nursing school. I passed my boards, and a month later had Micah. And
Okay.
yeah,
Awesome. Super stressful to be doing
oh
those
my
boards
gosh,
when you're that pregnant.
it was crazy. He was kicking me as I'm like answering the questions. It was wild.
Maybe that's why he's so good at science.
Yeah. Okay, so when once he was born, because it was precarious. It was like I was lucky to be alive. He was lucky to be alive. Grateful for Western medicine that I could go to a hospital and that type of thing. Um, and I want to say, grateful for the fact that it was a natural birth for me. I really wanted that, and that I could feel what birth was for me energetically, the cervix dilating, and then my crown chakra dilating, so that I could feel his whole spirit coming through me, birthing through me. I could feel how magical it is to be a woman, for our wombs, that they are portals of actually bringing spirit into form, and that we don't have to be moms to use that, or we don't have to even create children to use that, that we always, just by having a womb, or if you've had a hysterectomy, just the energetic of having a womb is still there, and that it holds the magic of bringing spirit into form. And so that we can manifest our gifts, manifest our dreams, just through this portal that we have naturally inside of us.
So, one thing, thank you for mentioning that. You've worked with me, and I'm letting a lot of personal things come out in this episode. Obviously, it's my close sibling, and I had endometriosis. And Nicole, you were the one that saw it and was like, "What are you doing? Get to the doctor. I don't know what it is." And I did. And, I was living with pain for a very, very long time. Finally went into the doctor and everything had to come out. So I had gone to the doctor many times and no one had diagnosed it. So when, finally it was not cancer. So very, very lucky. But endometriosis is a very difficult disease. So everything had to come out. And I remember going through pain, just sadness. You're like, you've lost part of yourself. And you helped me through that and worked with me through that. So thank you. Just you have not lost your creativity. You still have that. It's still you. Your body still knows how to do it. So I love that you tapped into that, because I know that there's women out there that have gone through that or may not have been able to have a baby. So it's just so important for women to know that you can manifest things and you can make things happen.
Yes. And that we're not worthless or useless because we don't have a baby or make children. Our wombs, whether they're still in our bodies or not, have created us as womb in, as what I like to think of us, instead of women, womb in. And that's the beauty of us. And for so long, it's been made to make us irrational, our hormones and all of that, or dirty because of the blood and all of that. But really, it's a blessing. It's a huge gift that we have to have this actual portal of bringing spirit into form.
Yes. And, thank you for putting that into words. I did want to ask you, was after having Micah and bringing Micah into the world, how did your career path change or alter?
Yeah. Instantly when he was born, like right when he came on my chest, I was like, oh, I'm done.
Done with what?
Done with nursing. There's no way I'm going to do nursing. That's how I felt.
So was it the trauma of what you had gone through? Because I know you had a difficult birthing process.
I mean, it could have been. And also part of the reason why maybe I was so into this midwife path and that type of thing was because in other lifetimes I had died in childbirth. And so maybe I just really needed to learn about it too. And then once he came through, phew, I survived, he survived, and now I'm done.
Okay. So what did you do next?
So next, basically all I wanted to do was be a mom. And luckily I was able to do that. It wasn't good on the marriage.
You were good. Hold on.
I was good. I was really good. Thank you. And I was a really good mom. Like that was a huge healing process for me. Like putting all of my love, the unconditional love and loving my children ended up being really healing for me.
Good. And I think that, when you look at marriage and you see, some things don't work out. Yeah. But look at these two beautiful beings that have come into this world, and the two of you work hard together to keep them happy. Yes. And keep love there for everyone. And I have to say, I have always admired that you are always doing your best to constantly make sure that it is, steady ground for those children to keep walking forward.
Yeah, so that's the best. Yeah. So even like during the marriage and then since divorce, yes, keep that steady ground.
Yes. Yes. Everyone moving forward and knowing that they're loved and supported.
Yes.
So as far as, you didn't find the nursing career that you wanted to do, how did you know, okay, I'm going to step into energy healing and I'm going to do this full time? And one thing I do want you to also explain too, what is energy for people who might be new to this?
Okay. Well, I'm going to backtrack a little bit and just say that I did do some nursing as my children got older, and I really gave it my all. not for me. But, maybe someday something will unfold with a balance of who I am and can bring it to Western medicine. We'll see. And with my career as an energy worker, it started, when I saw my marriage dissolving, I gave it a certain amount of time for things to hopefully turn around. But in that time, I'm like, I just have to make myself happy. Like, this is ridiculous. And what's going to make me happy? Do what I love to do. And that's energy healing. And so I started doing in-person treatments at a local healing place where I rented a room and had a whole bunch of new community, new friends that I got to meet and start to grow myself in a whole other way. And it felt so good. So there's that, and that you started calling me a lot.
So as you start seeing these people that you're close to and you're recognizing, you watch your friends evolve, you watch family members evolve, and just seeing that you sense things, you see things. I needed help. Why aren't I calling you? And so more and more we were talking, and I was like, you are spot on. Like, you are on this. And time again, you kept getting validated. You know what I mean? Like, this is real. Like this, you sent me on this path and this really happened and you were right time and time again.
Yeah, thank you. So, yes, Michelle definitely has been my biggest supporter in all of this. So, thank you so much.
You're great at it.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to talk about energy, and I have a big barky dog.
You does you too. Is she wanting to come in? Is that what's going on?
No, she's just a protector. She's a big protector.
Okay, good.
Okay, so energy healing, for all of us, we know that everything is energy. And so if we just tap into everything as energy, then we can start to work with it. And what I like to do is connect with people's divinity, their unique frequency of love, because that's what I feel like is the most healing for each of us, is our own God self, basically, and what we've created ourselves with. And I feel like dis-ease or pain is where things have obstructed that flow or are in us that it just doesn't belong in us. And so looking for ways of how to release that and bring in more of your love.
One thing I wanted to ask was, as far as when you're talking to someone, or you do a lot of Zoom calls and you meet with people on Zoom, how far ahead do you prep, and like how do you do that? How do you make sure that you're ready for those meetings?
So before each meeting, I'll sit in meditation, definitely get myself all centered, grounded, connected, and then I'll create a sacred space. And then I'll start to just tap in a little bit and be like, wonder what's happening. But honestly, usually when I'm meditating, I start clearing things that end up happening with their session. Like, oh yeah, that's why that was happening, because it's happening with them. And that's happened almost every time. It's really cool. Yeah, so I guess that's how I prepare.
With soul gratitude, people go in and you have classes for people. I've taken classes and I love them. One of the things I did want to also talk about was the deeper self-love for women, and just have you kind of, I don't, not a pep talk, but just for women, what would you suggest that we do at a minimum every single day?
Okay, so in that deeper self-love class, the very first thing that I talk about is creating space for yourself, because as women and mothers especially, we are taught to just give to everybody else except for ourselves. And we all know and have heard about fill up your cup first, but often we don't practice that. And so it's really coming into that practice, and that can be just 5 minutes in the morning, and that's setting your alarm just 5 minutes earlier. And then I have like just a cushion next to my bed, basically, and a little table where I light a candle and have some other things like pictures of my children and that type of thing on there. But I come and I sit, take some breaths to bring myself back into myself. That breath of life is so true. And then that awareness of my heart, just kind of listening to the rhythm of my heart. And then going into that warm love glow feeling of my heart. And then going into that inner wisdom, that inner communication, and asking my heart what it needs. And then following through with giving my heart what it needs. Honestly, it's usually love. It's pretty much always what it wants. And so with clairvoyance, a lot of it is imagination, and just trusting that imagination is actually real, because our thoughts are energy. And so it becomes real like that. And so if my heart asks for more love, then, maybe I'll give it like a bouquet of roses or something like that, or just tell it, I love you, that type of thing. And then you can feel what the change after that.
So I'm fiery. I have a bigger temper than you do. I can, so oftentimes you'll say, just, calm down. And, in order to feel the positivity, in order to think clearly, in order to feel the love, just you need to let go of the anger or the frustration or whatever it may be. So that's something that you've taught me as well through the classes when I'm feeling that level, how to just sit back and let it go. And just being so much more productive in life when you're able to do that.
Yeah. And it takes time. Like it takes that time of at least a couple minutes to just breathe, feel your heart, feel yourself, because our emotions can take over. And so it's coming back to center is what that is, and your heart center.
Especially in today's day and age. And just even being at the grocery store, I was actually at the pharmacy and someone cut in line and there were three people behind me, and just how everyone was up in arms so easily and everyone's just feeling so agitated.
Mhm.
So it's so important that we do this. And I remember just feeling everybody around me getting really angry really fast at this one person who decided he was more important than everyone else. And I kind of found it funny in a way, just this guy being this way. But I also was like, wow, we're all on edge.
Yes.
Everyone's on edge.
Yes. I love that. Just that witnessing yourself and finding it funny, because honestly, that's how we can really clear energy. That humor is just like, haha, you silly man, and then you think you're so much better. That's okay. Maybe he's having a really hard day, and then, yeah, people, I get you. I understand. And then come back to center.
Yes. Well, that's true. People started yelling at each other and I was like, okay, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
So, but it's tough. It's tough in today's age. Today, I feel like it's worse now than it's ever been. So that's why this is so important for people to carry with them, and being in that place for your kids, for your
Yeah.
children.
Yes. Because it's harder for children these days too. And so the more anchored we can be in, especially in our heart center, the more we can model that for them, but also the more love we can hold for them.
Absolutely. And that's a great kernel of wisdom to give everybody. I would love to know, as far as a few other things on the website, what are some other things that you do classes, you do some healing work for people long distance, and then inside. But I want to talk about your women's circle, because I'm jealous. I don't have a women's circle. And so I want to hear about your women's circle, and you live in an awesome community where you have this. But if you don't mind talking about it, we all need to do this, ladies. We need to start our own women's circle.
You do. Okay, so I've got an online women's circle right now that our last month we connected with Kuan Yin, who is the Buddhist compassion or goddess of compassion, and we connected with her energy. And these women's circles, we go through and we heal our lineages, and so we ask her to come in and help us with that. And then next month is going to be Mother Mary, and her coming in and her giving us a healing, and then we'll go through our lineages and receive a healing that way too. And this workshop that is a women's circle in person that I'm doing right now is working with our voices and our wombs, because those two places are our places of creation, but they're also places, especially in women, that have been invalidated and like we're not allowed to speak. And then like our wombs, like I talked about before, have been oppressed. We've just been oppressed. And so when we can wake up the energy of the power of our womb, that helps us wake up our voices and the power of our voice. And when we're in our voice, that helps us come into our divine truth, and it helps us manifest and create our lives.
One thing I did want to point out, and you and I have talked about this, is finding people who kind of make you be the best version of yourself, and making sure that if you're investing your time in with friends or a women's circle, a book club. It could be, we used to have sewing circles way back when, but just making sure that you're finding those people who are there in love and want to support you in love. And you're so lucky because I feel like you keep finding these fabulous women. And I'm jealous because I live across the country and I can't join you. And a lot of times you do awesome things on solstices, and I'm so far away. But that is something I have found as I've gotten older to let go. And gosh, it can be, even like a boyfriend or, friends that just don't serve you well. They don't. And who are you when you're with them? And how angry are you when you're with them? And or how hurt? And I think that that's something as women, we need to really take a look at. How does this person make you feel? You don't need to spend your time with them.
Yes, I love that. And that's more of that inner listening, because sometimes, like you said, we just power through things. Oh, it's just such a bad day. We give excuses to people. And really, we need to just honor ourselves. And as far as women's circles, I feel like they're beautiful because you're creating a sacred container, which then helps us elevate so that we're able to honor one another more and support one another more rather than being in that competition place.
Yes, we need to move away from the competition place. We are in this together.
Yes.
And Nicole, I wanted to ask, is there anything, I want you to end on like a quote or a favorite person that you want to talk about, but is there anything else that you wanted to say before we get to that point?
I don't think so.
Okay. So as far as like a favorite quote or saying or something that you like, those words that you live by, or someone that you like to read, I would love for you to share that.
Yeah. So I've been listening to books on Audible because for some reason I'm not able to read. It just makes me fall asleep lately.
Me too.
And so Thich Nhat Hanh is a Buddhist monk who passed recently, but he's written many, many books and he's so beautiful. And a little quote from him is, "Walk like your feet are kissing the earth."
And just so everyone knows, we're actually recording this on Earth Day. So I love that quote. That's a beautiful quote. And do you have that hanging in your house?
No, I don't.
I think that's something that we're going to find. So I love that. That's a beautiful quote.
Yeah. And I just love it so much because it speaks to how we can be present in our lives in that loving, sourceful way with every step that we take, every action that we make.
Being present.
Mm-hmm.
Something I have to fight for all the time. I tend to be the person who's, torturing myself about something in my past or looking to the future. So being present has been my struggle. You and I have talked about that as well. And it makes a huge difference.
It does. And so that's that coming to center. And it's an again and again and again. And so if we can do that every morning, it starts the day off of like coming into your heart and feeling that love. And then you can come back at lunchtime. Oh yeah, my heart, and then you can just keep doing it more and more often.
Nicole Love from Soul Gratitude, and my amazing sister. Thank you so much for joining us today on From the Basement Up. It was so great to have you here.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I love being here and I love you so much.
I love you too. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for joining us today on From the Basement Up. Please be sure to check namebubbles.com for our blog on the podcast and all of the show notes, resources, and links for our guests every Thursday. And please be sure to leave us a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. See you next week, and thank you.
Well,
To the crazy stuff. Come on.
He totally is.